Vintage stereo collectors. Today I want to talk about what a stereo restoration really is, whether it's a turntable, receiver, amp, tape deck. There's a little bit of confusion right now about that, and it kind of irritates me because I'm seeing people ripped off. And I was in the stereo business back in the 80s as a bench tech. And I used to see what the store was overcharging people for the work I did. It was non-warranty work. Nobody was getting a break. But in those days, it was like, well, this amp is 4 years old. I want it fixed, and might have a couple blown transistors. You fix that. The rest of it, the capacitors and everything, still had lots of life. It made sense to fix it, but people were being overcharged. I saw it all the time, whether it was the repair part of the business or paying full list for new stereo equipment or what we charged for car stereo installation. Yikes. Many times it was worth more than what the car cost. Anyway, let's get back to this. I was looking at some ads. I'm always browsing ads for stuff to restore and sell. And I came across several vintage Sansuis for sale by the same person, local ones, and it said units are fully restored. And it even showed the receipt from the stereo shop that did the restoration. And I'm looking at this receipt, and what they were charged was replace two 4700 microfarad capacitors and power supply, clean volume control. And this was $200. And I'm thinking, this is absolutely ridiculous. That is not a full restoration. That is a repair to get something fixed, get something going. And this was on a 1971 Sansui. It's got likely those C458 transistors, dried out capacitors. In this Kenwood here, I've changed all the electrolytics in it. Several of them I just checked with my capacitor meter. They're all off. They're either going open, they've lost a lot of their capacity, the resistance has changed. It was time. And the difference, I was listening to this last night, just running a signal through it, and I was thinking, what a great sounding unit. Like for its vintage, late 60s, what a great sounding unit. When I first tried it out, it had one channel working, the other one sizzling, and sort of a tinny AM radio type sound. Well, it was because all this needed to be changed. A true restoration is changing all the electrolytics, beefing them up where you can, and going stage by stage, checking resistor values, solder connections, and that's actually what I do. And in the power supply, any of the dropping resistors, new resistors, using metal film resistors, so that they're at the correct value. I mean, like really going through a unit. And this one I have, 11, 12 hours into it at this point. But I buy stuff to restore and to sell restored. I used to do a lot of repairs for people, and I found there was a reluctance to pay a guy that works out of his house. Yet they would go to a local stereo shop and pay a similar person with similar skills a full hourly rate plus a shop charge. Capacitors these 247 microfarad capacitors were $19 a piece, and they were Nishikans from a wholesaler. And I just find, here we go again. The few remaining places that do stereo repair restoration are overcharged. Yeah, I understand they have a store and they have wages to pay and everything. But what I'm interested in is the final product, what something sounds like, its reliability. And if you're going to advertise something that's fully restored and then take pictures of it and it's all original parts except for two capacitors, don't expect a very good offer on your equipment. It's just not going to happen. But I'm noticing this, like, there are so few how can I put it, classically trained electronics technicians left. a lot of them, like I'm almost 60, a lot of them that are older than me are out of the business or in a retirement home or whatever. They're just not doing it anymore. Um, People that are younger, there are some electronic technicians that are younger than me, but they don't have the years of experience. I've been working on this stuff for over 40 years, and I've seen hundreds of Kenwoods. I know what to expect. I don't need a lot of test meters to see what's wrong with them. I can listen, I can look. It's a whole different way of doing things. It's sort of like being, the movie The Horse Whisperer. Well, sort of like this with electronics. It's like, tell me what your problem is. Some burn marks. Old Elna capacitors. Ooh, I turned it on, there's some smoke. Like, it's kind of like that's the way you size things up. Then you get in with the test equipment. But I just want to say, like, I am appalled at what some restorers are, how they're even getting people to pay what they're asking is amazing. There's very little difference between a vintage Sansui and a vintage Kenwood of a certain era or a Yamaha. There's more of it's just differences of taste. They all are built similarly. They all, how can I put a word, quality items. But I see Sansuis in particular just being sold for astronomical prices. And there's stuff that's been found in a closet somewhere. They get it working and shove it out the door. And somebody buys it that's in their 20s and they really want to get into vinyl and the vintage sound. They pay too much for it. They're stuck with a lemon. It's weird how that happens. I hear those stories all the time. But anyway, thanks for watching and listening.